Good evening and thanks so much for joining us tonight. I'm Jennifer ABNEY. Now, 15 years later, I sit down with Jessica Lynch as she shares her survivor's story in an exclusive 13 News interview.
So not only are they generous, but they are survivors, Mark. And you can just see even from behind us this evening, we have a festival going on here in Clendenin. So they will survive. They will rebuild.
Talk about the 3rd District congressional race, Mark, the seat that's being vacated by Evan Jenkins since, of course, he's running for Senate. Topping our news tonight, just one look is all it took. Many West Virginia lawmakers say that's actually what led them to vote for Supreme Court impeachments. Well, drivers in southern Ohio will have to detour around a section of Solida Road for at least the next few months. Construction began there today on a stretch of road between US 52 eastbound interchange and Collins Avenue to build a roundabout for the nearby industrial park. A ban on firearms for firefighters in Chesapeake, Ohio has led to the fire chief there actually stepping down. New and disturbing revelations about a mysterious compound in northern New Mexico where nearly a dozen hungry children were found living in deplorable conditions. Here's what you're clicking on today. Okay, you're a parent. You know firsthand what this is like, right?
Absolutely.
It's time for back to school shopping. The season's in full swing, and this year it's expected to be one of the highest spending years on record. Sorry, Pat.
That's all right.
So how much will you likely spend on classroom essentials? Okay, the answer, a lot, to be honest.
Yeah.
According to the National Retail Federation, total spending for K through 12 and college expected to reach, get this, $83 billion, that's with a B, dollars this year. This is one of my favorite stories of the day. So empowering. A creative band director, along with something called Carl the Carrier, allows several southeastern Ohio band students to march on the field with their classmates. I'm making a prediction that is the most inspiring halftime show of any football game.
For sure. Nothing is impossible, she says.
I love that.
She joins us from one of the hardest hit areas, the town of Clendenin. Hi, Jennifer.
Good evening, Pat. I am here live in Clendenin tonight. And like you just mentioned, 2 years later, it's hard to believe, though, that some people here in the town of Clendenin are still trying to survive that storm.
What are we looking at here? Is this actually where you said, like, the driveway, the garage?
Yeah, the garage. This went right into a garage right here. You can see where there's no grass. And then that was the house. It was a 3-bedroom house.
On the night of June 23rd, 2016, a home that had been in Sarah McAfee's family for several generations was wiped out, swallowed by floodwaters.
I feel like I've lost something since the flood, and it wasn't just material things. For the first 3 or 4 weeks, I just shut down. I mean, I sit and look at it and just cry.
After salvaging the few items she could for her mom, Sarah thought the worst was behind them and the rebuilding process could begin.
I mean, there was the initial shock of losing everything that you owned, you know, and that was horrible. And then you have faith in the system and you do the right things, just to be let down over and over again.
And 2 years after the floods in Clendenin, her mom, Teresa, is still living in this, a camper.
All of my memories, my pictures of my kids that were in it, and I can't replace them, but they could replace me at home. That's how I feel.
Because there's just not enough room to even build a life in a, you know, in a camper. It's not something that you're supposed to permanently live in, you know, and then, yeah, that's really tough because she's not in the best of health anyway, and I think it's really took a toll on her mentally to have to live like this. So it is sad. It's hard, you know, there's no Thanksgiving dinner at her house, at Grandma's house anymore for my kids or anything. So it's a sad situation.
Teresa says she's gone through FEMA and the RISE program, filling out all the required paperwork, keeping up with receipts, making countless phone calls and appointments.
She's made 2 or 3 trips to look at house plans, like over an hour away, and then she comes home all excited and, you know, this is what I'm getting, and showing us the plans, and then nothing has ever become of any of us.
That was over a year ago.
And I've had 3 different social workers, and one quit, and I had no idea she'd even quit.
So now she waits, looking at the footprint of where her house once stood, searching for help.
The lady that called me the other day, she said, you're on top priority, you know, and I literally, I cried, because I've been like, there's so many ups and downs.
As her patience and her hope runs thin.
I'm just about tired of camping.
But most of all, Teresa tells me she's still so positive, and she is still hopeful, and it's a story we'll continue to follow. I spoke with Mayor Shana Clendenin as well. She is also a storm survivor, and she tells me that night of June 23rd, 2016 was the longest night of her life. She watched as homes and vehicles were wiped out by those floodwaters as she worked to help rescue her neighbors. Getting them through the floodwaters, though, was just the beginning.
Our long-term recovery committee and the volunteers here through UMCOR and VOAD and the Mennonites and Neighbors Loving Neighbors, they have been the bulk of recovery for this town and everyone here. It hasn't so much been FEMA, or it hasn't so much been RISE up to this point, but hopefully that changes soon.
And it's something Shana will continue to work with. And one of the things that I know you're most excited about, there's a festival going on here this weekend. It kicks off tonight in just a few minutes. So we want to invite you down to that. But I also want to know, where do you go from here? There are still people trying to survive here, Shana.
Yeah, we have worked closely, most recently with General Hoyer and the renewal of the RISE program, and that's definitely back on track and going in a very positive direction. We still have volunteers committed to the town of Clendenin for the next 3 years. So we are not forgetting about anyone.
And I know that one of the things, we talked this time last year, actually, you just become mayor. And one of the things I remember you told me is anyone looking for an adventure in business, this is your place.
Yes, absolutely. We are pushing business and tourism and recreation like never before in Clendenin. So come and visit us, come talk to me, and we will find you a spot.
And we found someone already doing just that. As we just mentioned, of course, we are coming up on the 2-year anniversary. But I did speak with one longtime Clendenin resident who's looking to the future. He wants to use the abundant natural resources that flow through this town to give it new life. Local businessman, councilman, and lifelong Clendenin resident Dave Knight says he sees opportunity in that very same river that brought those floodwaters 2 years ago. His insurance business and home sit right across the street from the mighty Elk. And he says it was that point of view that actually offered him inspiration for his next investment.
I want to do something good for Clendenin, and that'll bring people in from out of town, and where we don't have to depend on the locals, to support everybody here, So that's how I got into the kayak rental business here.
Like many residents, the storm survivor just wants to see his hometown come back stronger than ever. In fact, this is one of 2 new kayaking businesses opening on the mighty Elk River just in the last couple of months. And there will be plenty of life, I can guarantee you, on the Elk this summer. Dave Knight says he plans to have his business, the Yak House Kayak Rental Boats, on the water by the July 4th week. Reporting here live in Clendenin, Jennifer Abney. Patrick, back to you.
Why this event is so very important. Hi, Jennifer.
Good evening, Pat. This is absolutely one of my favorite events of the year. And one of the big reasons behind that is because this is truly a party with a purpose. And I had the opportunity to sit down with 2 women who know firsthand about the reason that they have this big party. It's to help fight domestic violence. But the impressive part about them, they are no longer victims. They are now survivors.
I can always remember being a little bit of that voice for Mom. It was empowering but very excruciating, even after all these years.
It's hard to go back and think about the time that you were laying on the floor being choked out of anger and having to find the strength to either fight back or black out.
Here in West Virginia, there is help for anyone who is struggling to survive a domestic violence situation, and that's one of the very reasons that both Martha and Tara support Girls Night Out here in the capital city. The event is a fun way to help raise funds for a very important cause, the YWCA Resolve Family Abuse Program, whose mission, of course, is to eliminate domestic violence. They provide shelter, they provide safety. They also provide essential support services, not just to the victims, but to their children in Kanawha and Clay and also in Boone counties. So last year's event, just to give you some idea of just how important this event is, raised close to $200,000 for all of those counties. And these funds, of course, from Girls night out. They account for actually almost 20% of the entire operating budget for the YWCA throughout the year. So not only is this an important event, it's a fun event. And we're going to talk to some of the folks tonight who helped make this possible. And we're also going to continue to share some of the stories about the women who were so thankful that these services exist.
Snowshoe resort for skiing and snowboarding.
But it's actually now getting international attention for another adrenaline rushing sport, downhill mountain biking. Snowshoe announcing today that the World Cup is coming to the United States and to Snowshoe. It's hosted the Nationals before, but never the World Cup. The Snowshoe Bike Park will be the last stop on the 2019 UCI Mountain Bike World Cup schedule, which means the stakes will be pretty high next September when all of the top riders in the world come to West Virginia in search of a title.
Yeah, this event is
Another bonus, this is obviously a big shot in the arm for the local economy during the actual event, and then hopefully it makes the resort and the state a destination for more athletes to return in the future. So did you notice there Sean was on the ski lift? I love in the summer, they take every other chair off and put bike racks on there. So you can ride down and you don't have to pedal back up the mountain. You just hop on the lift and head back up, and it's a good weekend to do that, Spencer.
I would try that. I would absolutely try that if they would just get rid of the trees and the rocks.
And do you want some extra training wheels on it too?
Maybe airbags would be fine.
Yeah, I would do that too.